Next, we'll look at our OpenStack image service, codenamed Glance. It's confusing sometimes when we talk about image service, and this isn't image storage as in photos, but images as in virtual machine images. So imagine an Ubuntu image. This is like a pre-cut VM template that's already pre-built so that you don't have to do a full build from operating system up. You could have different types of images as well while you're at it. And these can include everything from traditional operating systems as well as whatever OS you want to run in there, and even application layers on top. Our Glance service is used to store and manage our guest images. Images themselves can be managed globally as well as a per tenant basis. When we talked earlier about the multi-tenant environment and those global objects, images are a great example of that. So you can have a globally available image as well as per tenant custom images that can be created by the administrator or by the tenant occupants. Users themselves can also be authorized to upload specific custom images. And this is great when we're talking about application environments and different custom builds that anybody would want to be able to do. You can store images in a lot of different components. We can use our OpenStack Swift environment, which we're going to talk about shortly, as well as Cinder. Again, these are going to be discussed soon when we take a look at OpenStack storage environments. It can also be deployed in the native file system, which is why in our core services we haven't touched on storage yet. You don't necessarily need to have an underlying storage environment to be able to deploy guest images using Glance. We can also store them remotely. And this is great if you wanted to be able to host them, say, in an AWS S3 environment or any kind of an external available environment that can host that. So this way you don't have to use up local disk space. This is a great way if you have, lightly used images that you just want to store out in the cloud or in another portion of your private cloud environment. They just have to be accessible via HTTP. Let's take a look at our use case. So you'll remember our friend Jens from mycyclingstore.com. Jens has a very specific use case that he wants to build. He has his tenant environment, and inside it, he's got a classic Ubuntu 12.04 long-term support image that he uses for pretty much everything. He also has a basic CentOS image that he uses, again, for any CentOS-based delivery that he has in the MyCycling Store environment. Well, Jens needs a little help, so he hires Clara. Clara's a new system administrator, and she wants to be able to create custom Glance images based on the previous ones that Jens has been using. Clara decides to create a specific WordPress image on top of the Ubuntu image, which is great. So now you can deploy a Glance image which already has WordPress baked into it. Perhaps she wants to create a MySQL environment as well. These are all completely available within that tenant environment. So in the MyCycling Store tenant, Jens and Clara have the ability to create and upload their custom images. These don't necessarily have to be available outside of the environment. In fact, that's the great thing about the per tenant environments, that you know that if you have specific custom images that you don't want to spread out beyond, they're completely encapsulated inside your tenant. Luckily, the global images were there to begin with, so you don't have to start by uploading, say, your Ubuntu image or your CentOS image, or in fact, any of these images could be created and presented globally in that catalog of Glance images. This is the advantage of the operational model in cloud environments. So when we look at what Jens and Clara need to do, they've got a lot of different options available to them, thankfully, using OpenStack Glance.